My name is Jack Stamper. I'm 67 years old. I've only been a Christian for 6 years because most of my life I turned away from God. God gave me a temple when I was born, and I destroyed the temple. I drank it, I drugged it, I did a lot of things with this body that God had given me. It cost me 2 marriages. It cost me 11 car accidents and thousands of dollars. So finally God put his foot down at 60 years old and said, this is it. Here's your chance. But he had to bring cancer into my life for me in order to hear this. And then bring me back to Wisconsin. And where did I end up? But living at my brother's place, and he's a minister. So this is really what I wanted to go through. Every morning there's my brother Jerry with the Bible, wanting to read scripture and pray. And I already said to him, finally, Jerry, I don't need to go through this. I'm going to get through this cancer, and I don't need God's help to do this. So I had my first chemo, and it was a real trip. But I still fought God, and I still argued that I didn't need God for anything. So I had my first treatment. I had my second treatment. And then I got a massive infection in my back. So they had to stop the treatments, and they had to do surgery. Then they said, all right, the hospital said, no, the Medicare won't pay for your bills no more here, so you got to go home. So they set up my apartment there. But I'm still arguing and fighting with God that I don't need his help. I can get through this. They had me on 5 narcotics to fight the pain I was going through. And I kept fighting with it and fighting with it. And finally, one night, I'm sitting there, this was in January, and I screamed out, God, you've got to help me with this. You've got to help me. I don't know if you're listening to me. I don't know if you even want to let me talk to you. But I need your help, God. Please, you've got to help me with this. That was the first night in months I got some sleep. I woke up in the morning, and the pastor from this church, Pastor Steinmetz, was on my mind. And I hadn't seen that man in 4 years. So I called my brother Jerry. And I said, you got to get a hold of that pastor I met 4 years ago when I was up here hunting. 2 days later, the pastor's sitting in my living room talking to me about what God had forgiven my sins, that God didn't hold that against me, that I rejected him. He read scriptures to me, quoting me what God had done for me, and how he had forgiven my sins and put them away, that I'll never have to hear him or deal with him again. Now you remember, all my life I fought with God and argued with God. And now here God had answered my prayer and had the love for me and the care for me that he put his arms around me and he forgave me for my sins. Now at that time, I was coming to the church here. The people were praying. I was praying, asking God to help me. After 8 weeks of these intravenous treatments they were giving me to fight the infection I had, they decided to see how bad the cancer had gotten. So they did a PET scan. They come back, it took them 5 days to give me the results instead of 3. And they had 2 more oncologists there that day, plus they had my son on the phone for a conference call. And they said, well, this is the situation, they said. You don't have any more cancer. It's gone. My son just went off on him. He said, you're scientists, you're doctors. How can you say you don't know? And they said, well, we don't. And that's when I was sitting there. And I said, well, maybe I have an answer. And they said, oh, what do you think? I said, well, the church has been praying for me. I've been praying for me. And I said, I think God took my cancer away. But I said, the most important part of this whole thing, though, is that God forgave me of my sins. I said, after 60 years of rejecting him, turning him down, having operations and looking up at this operating lights and being afraid that if I died, I knew I was going to hell because I was a sinner. But God finally forgave me of my sins, took me in, forgave me, gave me the peace inside me that I didn't have. Filled that void that caused me to use drugs and to drink and to do all the things I did. God took that away and gave me my peace. That's the most important thing. Not the cancer being gone, but that God forgave me and gave me the peace in my heart that I didn't have. It filled that hole that I had there. After 6 years and 60 years of rejecting him, I've had 6 years of joy, 6 years of peace, a new life. And it's all due to God. Now I've had 3 operations since I've become a Christian. And when I look at them lights now, I know that if God takes me home, I'm going to be in heaven. I'm going to have a new body, no more aches, no more pains, no more sadness. And I want to rejoice in all my life from then on eternally for what God has given me.